And Mike, it's wonderful to meet you, sir.
Yeah, you too. You too.
Thank you so much for taking a minute. I'm looking forward to getting into your good work, and I want to begin our journey with where are you at? Where are you located right now?
I'm in San Antonio, Texas.
Okay, excellent. Very cool. So I want to begin our conversation with 5 years ago, this pandemic. We were in the thick of it, trying to figure out how we were going to get out, what was going on. How much of living through that pandemic has influenced the way that you live your life today?
All of it, right? I mean, because I had exited a company in 2019 and 2020, I was kind of trying to figure out what to do with my life. So it kind of set the stage for the next 5 years.
So, talk to me a little bit about exactly what you do right now in 2025 for a living. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of 12-year-olds. It's career day. The kid in the back of the room is like, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer
Hey, you know what's really funny about that? My kids still ask me that.
him?
Meaning they're going, we really don't know. When you were a state trooper, Dad, we got it. We could tell everybody, oh, he was a state trooper, and that's what I did in Missouri, right? I
Yeah,
was a Missouri state trooper, and but my family outgrew my income, and I started businesses, and where some people start a business, and that's what they do from minute one till they retire. I was more of like of a business flipper, right? I've built 14 companies over the last 25 years. And so when I exited the software company, the one I built from like 2012 to 2019, I kind of just didn't know what I wanted to do next. So 2020 hit, we're all locked in. I'm watching more TV than I ever had. And I'm like going, you know what? I'm just going to take some of the stuff that I learned over the last, 20 years and I'm going to write a book.
yeah.
Because I was sitting at home, right? I mean, think about it. Joe, we were wiping down grocery bags as they got delivered. You remember that?
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Oh yeah.
I don't do that anymore, but
Yeah.
but I remember doing it then. So, but I wrote a book, and I wrote a book that was called, "Don't Be a Dumb Business Owner," right? And this actually came, from personal experience. So, don't be a
Yeah.
dumb business owner means I don't understand my business. That's what dumb means, not unintelligent.
Yeah.
And it was me sitting at the kitchen table, like going, "How come I can't figure this out? I'm not dumb. I just don't understand my business."
Yeah.
Right. So,
Yeah.
and that's kind of where that came from. Well, from that, because I had a non-compete, I kind of had to just figure out what I was going to do. So I consulted with a digital bank up at Toronto, but I was doing it right here from San Antonio and teaching bankers how to work with small business owners, right? How to talk to me.
Yeah.
And so that became, kind of we're working in the house. And I'm going to kind of like it, kind of like not going to the office. I kind of got used to, believe it or not, this Zoom thing that you and I are doing right now is easier today because of COVID.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I always found it uncomfortable prior to that. Like, going, oh man, I hate getting on camera to talk to people. But now it's just as easy as walking out the front door and talking to a neighbor. Right. It's that comfortable. So that's, part of the change, part of what becomes us today. Well, so I wrote the book, and because of my experience with banks, I also built a product called the cash flow tool. It's an add-on to QuickBooks.
Yeah.
And when I built that tool, I became pretty knowledgeable in the accounting space and got a name, Cashflow Mike, from the bankers and the accountants, uh, to talk to them about how to reach a business owner because there was a big shift in accounting that's still undergoing from transactional accounting, where I'm just going to take your receipts and put them into bookkeeping and generate some reports and fill out your tax reports and those type of things, to advisory services, which means, hey, everybody now can take a picture of a receipt and it does the work that I used to do. I've actually got to provide value. And the only way I can do that is stop being the historian of a company and start being the GPS.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So stop looking backwards all the time and start looking forwards.
Yeah.
And because of that, they started to ask me because I was doing a lot of consulting. I'd built businesses. I'd work with banks. I go, how do we do what you do? Because no one had ever, there's no training to be an advisor. There's no like here's how you be a consultant. Here's how you work with small businesses. Here's what the levers you pull in a cash flow situation. Well, because of that, I built a program called Pathfinder. Pathfinder was about um, helping someone guide someone else through the mud, right? The
Yeah.
mud of running a business, the thing that's hard. And so when I started to teach them the math that's in the book and how to execute it, put together a plan on here's what you do month 1 through month 12, and here are the burning issues you're looking for. they said we wanted some role plays. So my clients at that point in time became accountants, advisors, bookkeepers, even small business owners. But the ones that wanted to be advisors wanted to know how to have a conversation. I'm like, going, wait a second. First of all, you guys come to a former state trooper to learn math. Now you want to learn how to talk to people? Okay. So, and I didn't understand it because I was like going, I'm just role playing. But what I had to sit back and do was think about why do I ask the questions that I do in the order that I do?
Yeah.
Right. And my wife says, don't be copping me. Don't be, don't be pulling that police stuff on me. But
Yeah.
7 years as a state trooper, you learn the skill called verbal judo. And it's about getting people to be committed to an action rather than just being compliant,
Right.
right? Just because I said so, right? It's hey, this is the right thing to do. So I started to diagram my conversations and came up with about 8 techniques that I use. Now, not all of them are from the police force, right?
Right.
Don't Tell Me What to Do was the book that I wrote this last year, but some of them came from COVID, right? This time, so I'm bringing it back to 5 years ago.
Sure.
You're like, oh, Mike, how did you learn how to talk to people during COVID? Well, remember I told you I watched more TV than I
Hmm.
used to? Well, one of the shows that I sat down and watched was Hoarders.
Yeah.
And I don't like the disorder. I think I think it's sad. I think it's debilitating. It's the worst thing in the world. But what I saw was not the disease or not the behavioral disorder. What I saw was the interaction between the psychologist
Yeah.
and the person with the disorder. I'm like going, oh my God, that's exactly the way I feel when I'm talking to some small business owners now. That I'm the doctor, the problems that they have are the horde that all of us can see, right? How do I get you to want to clean it up?
Yeah.
And so some of the questioning techniques that the psychologists use became part of my repertoire, part of the way that I talk. Like when you first go up, that could be the most contentious part of the whole relationship. The
Sure.
very first minute that I meet you, we both see the mess. We both know there's a problem. If I'm judgy, if I'm accusatory, if I say anything that could be deemed as, well, a judgment against you, right? Like you shouldn't be doing this. The person that's receiving that message is automatically going to shut down. They're automatically going to fight, right? There's defensive. But what the psychologist taught me is they walked in, they say, "Hey, tell me what I'm looking at." Right? That's one of the first things that most of them say in every episode. Or they'll say something like going, "Hey, how do you think it got like this?"
Yeah.
And both of those type of questions actually open up an avenue for the person with the disorder to say, "Oh, well, maybe I can talk my way out of this. Maybe it's not that bad. Maybe I can convince him that it's okay. We can just go about our business."
Yeah.
Well, that's about the same way that you talk to people on the side of the road as a state trooper, right? You want them to feel like there's a reasonable explanation for what they're doing.
Yeah.
So I think when your question, even though it took me 10 minutes to answer,
Oh, it's good.
what was, hey, how did the 5 years, change? What's my life like today? Well, I became more comfortable at working with people not only virtually, but I created a business out of it. Right. So I mean, I actually got out of the corporate grind myself, stopped working with so many employees and things like that, and did things for others. Right. So I'm back in servant mode,
Yeah.
like being a police officer, like I was in the Army National Guard, but I'm back serving others.
So, what did you want to be when you were 12 years old? What was your dream life?
Yeah, I thought I was going to be a baseball player.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I was actually pretty good in high school. Got up to junior college, right? And this is probably where I couldn't get into one of the big schools with a baseball scholarship, but I got in junior college, and that's where I figured out that I couldn't hit a curveball, like a real curveball. I could hit a high school curveball. I couldn't hit a college curveball. And I go, oh yeah, that's why I didn't get a scholarship to the big school. Great at fielding, I'm great at other stuff. I just can't hit those pitches.
So, we
So
talked before we got on about you being a season ticket holder for the Chiefs. What was the best game that you saw during that time period?
it was, I think Vermeil was the coach. Marcus Allen was the running back. It was the last second, fourth quarter. Chiefs are on the two. Marcus Allen goes over the top for the touchdown and the wind.
Okay.
I mean, that's the game that I think I was most exhilarated. Now, I'm gonna tell you what, every single game, I would run from the parking lot to make the national anthem. There is something about hearing the whole crowd
Uh-huh.
end the national anthem with that Chiefs.
That's the
That's the whole day.
and it happens everywhere, every sport, Royals games, soccer games. It's like a Kansas City anthem. Every time you get to the end, it's the Chiefs. Um, so how did you take me back to your childhood? How did these the public servant part, being an entrepreneur, these very eclectic skill sets, how did these develop? These seeds become you?
All right. So when I told you I went to a junior college, I'll be more specific. I went to Wentworth Military Academy, which is right outside Kansas City, right? And from there, I got an ROTC scholarship, right, through that military academy. And at age 19, I became a second lieutenant. And if you know anything about the military, you know, the lieutenant captains and all that, that's the management of the Army. Those are really what those people do, is that they develop plans and execute on plans and manage people. So the skill set was kind of built by the Army, right? If it comes down to it. And me, I actually like the adventure type stuff, right? So, I mean, I was in the infantry. I went to airborne school. I went to air assault school. Everything that I thought could be just hua hua, like go out and be physical and roughhouse and all these type of things. That's what I wanted to be because there was, everyone in my family had preceded me. I mean, my dad was a Vietnam vet. I mean, he told stories about that. Matter of fact, I remember young looking through his books, his Marine Corps books that he got from going to basic training and those type of things. And it actually scared me a little bit, right? As a 12-year-old, I'm like going, man, those guys are men because I could see them getting their shots and being yelled at and those type of things. And I'm like going, man, I don't know if I want to do that.
Yeah,
Well, there's something that takes over, right? Puberty, maturity sets in. You're like going, oh no, I can do that, right? If he can do it, I can do it.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
that's where that became. And after I went through the military academy and I went to officer basic and did all these cool schools, I'm like going, man, I don't know if I want to do the Army full time. And I got recruited by the Missouri State Highway Patrol, right? Because they like guys coming out of Wentworth and things like that, and those type of schools and got recruited and they said, hey, come test. And I went and took the test and I really didn't even know what a state trooper would do, but I knew it was along the same lines of protect, serve, same thing I was doing with the Army and, a rougher childhood. I mean, we saw police, but I wasn't on I was never in trouble. Just the neighborhood was not a great neighborhood, right? So police were always kind of there and it was never a good thing, but I always enjoyed, uh, watching them solve problems,
Yeah.
right? So that's how the police thing came in. Now, I left the police work 7 years later. So it took me 7 years to figure it out. And part of it was my wife came to me and says, hey, we're pregnant. We're going to have our third daughter. So I'm writing a student loan check. I've got an MBA out of Baylor here in Texas. And I'm writing a student loan check. And I'm like going, yeah, my family has outgrown my income. I've got to do something else. So I've got this MBA. I'm like going, I'm got to go do something.
Yeah.
Nobody really wants to hire a former police officer to just go do something. So I'm like, I'm just going to do it on my own. So I'm like, what skills do I have? Well, think about it. Infantry, jumping out of planes. There's not real companies that do stuff like that. I mean, there are, but I didn't know anything about that. But I said, one skill I do have is I can clean. So I started a janitorial company that actually did pretty well, but it morphed. I had some clients ask me to provide people and not do the contract labor part. Just, hey, just give me people. So I changed my hotel staffing, janitorial into a hotel staffing company where I'm like, going, if I don't have to clean, all I got to do is go find people to go to work. I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
That one took off, Joe.
Yeah.
We opened. I became a preferred vendor at Marriott and opened 27 offices in 9 states in 3 years, and had my first cash flow problem. Meaning, I'm struggling. I'm staying awake at night. I'm like, going, oh my God, where am I going to get money to make payroll? Got to make payroll for 500 people every 2 weeks. Marriott's waiting 3 to 4 months to pay me. Right? It's like 90 days out before I get a check. I'm going, well, you got to have a ton of money, in reserve or a line of credit to be able to do that. Right. So that's where I started really focusing on what is cash flow and how do I solve these type of problems because I had them myself. With that, part of the way I solved it is I bought a little bar restaurant in St. Louis. Then I built the bar restaurant. Then I bought a building with a bar restaurant in it. And then I bought 9 more buildings. right? And I even had a rental home in Overland Park, Kansas, out there with you.
Yeah.
That I put my brother-in-law in so I could go out there and stay for the Chiefs games.
Yeah. So, who's been your hero? Who's been your inspirational force?
Yeah, all right. So early on, there was a guy named Jerry Gerbaki, and he was the CEO of Pimco. He went to Duke, and he's the one that talked me into going to get an MBA. And he kind of mentored me in this hotel staffing company and taught me the ropes, right? Just how to actually be an executive of a company. So I mean, he was the first mentor, we'll say, for business. Beyond that, I mean, I go right to my grandfather. I mean, who told me right from the beginning. I remember having my first problems in business, and he says, "Hey, listen, you just got to control what you can control. That's it. Don't worry about the things that you can't control. Just control what you can control and try to build a process that avoids it." Now, what's funny is he was a janitor, right? He's telling me this. He didn't have a bit. He had a lawn mowing business that he did on the side, but he was a janitor for the school system. Almost all my life. So great advice, though.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you this. How have you found the balance? Is your philosophy on life between your family and work? Every day you wake up, what's the motivation? How much of that do you try to balance? How does that work for you?
It's changed. Over the years, I think I was more driven on growth and promotion, and getting my name out there and those type of things early on. Today, my whole is on building a lifestyle friendly business. I want to live the life that I want to live, but I want to be able to, accumulate enough wealth to do it. Right. So that's why I now work at home. That's why, I like this better than going into an office and running a big team and those type of things. Because if like right after this, if I want to go out and sit by the pool, I'll go do that.
Yeah.
So it's that for me now. I mean, I love the freedom of being able to uh the work the way I want to work because I think I'm more productive.
So if you walked into a room of everybody that's known you as an entrepreneur and an officer, and you could swim through that group and go to a podium and tell them one fun story, one fun anecdote, something that they wouldn't know about you that's just purely fun, a great story, what would it be?
Well, I'll tell you this. I mean, everybody always wants to talk about me being a former state trooper, right? They always go, "Hey, tell me a cop story. Tell me this." And I say, "Well, I said, think about when you go to a party. What is it that happens at a party, like you're describing? Somebody asks you your name. What's the second question they always ask?
What do you do for a living?
What do you do for a living, right? So when I would say, hey, I'm a state trooper, there was another question that I got probably 80 to 90% of the time. The very next question I got after state trooper, what do you think that was?
What's the craziest thing that you ran into?
Yeah. Well, that would be in one of those 15% ones. What's the craziest story you ever had?
Yeah.
Most people go, all right, Mike, come on, tell me, how fast can I drive? That's what they would do. And I would say the same thing every single time. I would say, you can drive as fast as you can afford.
There you go.
Right? So if you can afford a $50 ticket, drive that fast. If you can afford a night in jail, I can give those too. So just drive that fast.
In my 20s, I went to Montana when they didn't have a speed limit, and we still got pulled over. We gunned it. And the trooper pulled us over and said, Look, it says safe and prudent below. It's not just this is the Autobahn, go for it. So it was interesting. But we all had long hair. We fit the description of what are you guys doing? They wanted to make sure it was good. And he let us go. Everything was cool. But it
Yeah.
was just, you can't just do anything you want when you want.
Right. You
So
look the part. Yeah, you look the part.
that's it. That's what I'm saying. So let me ask you this. If you had a dream tonight, ran into the 18-year-old version of you, and you could give that young version of you a piece of advice based on this life you've led, the wisdom you've gained, what would you tell your younger self?
I say it's not about you, right? Because I think I had an ego problem. I mean, think about it. You go from being a 19-year-old second lieutenant, doing all those crazy things, to a state trooper, and you get a pretty big ego.
Yeah,
And it took me years, I'm talking 3 to 5 years past being a state trooper, past getting out of the army, for me to go, oh, it's bigger than me,
yeah,
right? It's bigger than me. I'm just another person. I'm just another person.
yeah.
So stop putting so much, emphasis on yourself because it's not you.
So, of everything that you've accomplished and evolved into, what are you the proudest of?
Believe it or not, I've got three granddaughters, right? So, I mean, if you, and everybody said that, that's kind of the cheap way out. But I mean, uh, I am proud of the fact that we have formed a family, right? I mean, a family that you think about, a family that, that you see on TV. I think we're that. Now, is there problems? Yeah. Have we had some knockdown, drag out fights and trust and everything back and forth? Yeah. I've got three amazing daughters. Two of them are mothers on their own now. Uh, I think I'm most proud of the family, right? I've done other things. I mean, I'm a published author. I'm a published poet. I've done a lot of cool things, but building a line of people, that's something you should be proud of,
Yeah,
right? And really
absolutely.
take to heart.
So, Mike, at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you: family, friends, clients, colleagues, everyone that knows you and works with you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think I have a huge heart, but a hard exterior, right? That's who I think I am. And I work hard every day not to be that, right? Not to be the guy that has that hard exterior that was built over decades. It's the more generous side that I like to see now that that I think others are also starting to see. As I've got into my 50s, I just think there's a softer side that actually everyone enjoys better today. I think people enjoy 50-year-old Mike better than 30-year-old Mike.
I dig it. So, Mike, if anyone wants to get your books, reach out, learn more, any of the good business, where do they go?
Yeah, super easy, right? Matter of fact, I got a free course as well. It's at cashflowmike.com, right? So
Okay.
it's pretty easy. Free course right at the top. It's called the 7 Minute Conversation. This is how to analyze financial statements in 7 minutes or less. If you're new to business and you don't know what to start looking at these reports, here's 6 calculations that should get you off on the right foot. You get a video course, you get a spreadsheet that kind of helps you, and you get the book. All right, so go check it out. Take it for free.
And I will put links in the show notes. And Mike, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you, sir. I
Appreciate you.
appreciate it.
Thanks, man, Joe. Next time I'm in Kansas City, I'll look you up.
Absolutely. Thank you. Hello, friends. Joe Dimino here. I just wanted to let you know that after 30 years or so, I have finally released my first book of poetry through the mighty Spartan Press here in Kansas City, Missouri. As the creator and host of both Neon Jazz Radio and the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino podcast, along with being a visual artist, I'm ready to embark on a new adventure and want you to be a part of it. You can get a copy online via Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and actually on the streets in Kansas City at the great Prospero's bookstore off 39th Street. You can also visit joedimino.com for links to the book, to more poetry, and everything in my world, including paintings. Thanks for all of the love and support over the years, and please dig the words.